say, hey, be good to your partner is nice, but you need to have like at some point a really specific threshold what that means. So that is why these commandments actually are know this or know that. They meant you can interpret them in the opposite, but it's kind of like trying to draw a line somewhere to keep things healthy. Hello and welcome back. So today is a really interesting episode. So we're gonna start a bit from the previous episode, which was more about God and the divine and all of that. So I thought, why not go forward and talk a bit about the commandments. And what I'm gonna talk about is not the 10 commandments that were given from God to Moses, but I'm talking about the 7 commandments which were given from God to Noah after he basically wiped out humanity in the story, because they were just so lost back then that even God said, or the divine said, like sometimes things are so bad that you just have to reset the whole thing, the whole playboard, because you can't turn it around anymore. I told you that before. The teaching is a bit there. In life, you can get so lost that it's game over, that you will never recover. You can become so traumatized and so badly wounded that getting back is basically impossible in a lifetime. So that is a bit a lesson from that side. Now the 7 commandments are really beautiful because it's kind of the whole playboard gets reset, and in order to make sure that it doesn't happen so easily anymore, the divine reveals a part of itself, or you could say in the Bible, God reveals the commandments. And what I say by that is he's not giving rules and says, hey, if you do that again, I gotta wipe you out, you know. It's more like the rules which we are given by the divine are more like that is just how it works, you know. And you'll see that in a second. But if you hurt someone on purpose all the time, it will get back to you and you will suffer and your life will get worse too. And that is just how it works. So these commandments are not meant to tell you basically what to do and what to not, but they are kind of the divine, the parent, you could say. The divine is like a parent or a God, showing the children, this is who I am, how this works, you know, and wants us to have a better life by understanding it better. And the 7 commandments were kind of the first explicit version of that in the Bible. Now, the first commandment, and I really like it, is no idolatry. So you should not worship idolatry or anything like that. And I always like these rules because you could say, oh, this is so bad, like no this, no that, no whatever. But you can flip them all around. And what by no idolatry is meant is focus on life. Don't get distracted by material things. So you see, the thing is, you could say that in the first place, you could say focus on life, don't get lost in material things. But then you don't have like a threshold. And having a healthy relationship, especially with another person, is all about personal boundaries and boundaries, making sure that you have like a drawn safe zone. And if that gets violated, that you pull out, for example, I don't know, if your partner cheats on you, that you are gone, that you don't stick around, because it's degrading for yourself, for example, that if your partner cheats on you, they basically worship someone else or fun or whatever over you, and that would be toxic and bad. So you see, say, hey, be good to your partner is nice, but you need to have like at some point a really specific threshold what that means. So that is why these commandments actually are know this or know that. They meant you can interpret them in the opposite, but it's kind of like trying to draw a line somewhere to keep things healthy, so that you understand why they're meant that way. So why no idolatry? What is wrong with idolatry? And the thing is, what is revealed by that from the divine is, don't get lost in material things. Anything, any material thing, any statue or any person, whatever it is, any ideology, it's all limited. because it has a specific form and shape. And if you worship that, it's always gonna be limited in what it can give to you too, because it's a material limitation. But the one thing which is absolutely unlimited is the divine source of life itself. So no idolatry means focus on that. Focus on life itself, the energy within life. Okay, being alive. Focus on that. And from there, you can draw infinite energy. I told you before in the previous video, I can draw infinite energy from that life source. It's a very also Taoistic sense that the Tao is infinite, that the Taoists always teach. And it's the same description which we have here, just from a more Christian view, from the view of the Bible. I don't think the Old Testament is really Christian. But yeah, that it comes from that. And it also teaches then monotheism, which kind of says there is just one life source. There is nothing else. Whatever you find other, it's not the real deal. It's just a distraction. It's going to be a trap. You're going to get lost. It's not going to give you what you really need. There is just this one thing, and this one thing is the only thing which can give you and what you're searching for. All right? So there is no idolatry. Okay, focus on life itself. That is the truth. And the second one is very connected to it, which is no blasphemy. And I didn't understand that one for a very long time. And all that it says is cultivate and acknowledge the divine to be the only source of life. And no blasphemy means the divine has a certain property. It is loving. It is caring. It has just this character of nurturing in its essence, in its deep, deep essence, that you are loved and cared for, even though it doesn't look like it. We'll get to that later. But yeah. And to accept that, not to deny that the source of all is goodness and loving and caring and whatever, and that this is what makes life really great if you live this out, okay? So no blasphemy means don't deny that there's a basic sense of goodness in life and to nurture that and live that, okay? Don't turn away from it. You will get lost. And ultimately, you will suffer greatly if you don't acknowledge this fundamental property of what life in its essence is, okay? Another thing about no blasphemy is also that you need to accept that life is what it is. And your task is to understand it, okay? So you could start denying life and say, no, life is horrible and I hate it. And, you know, and the more you struggle and fight, and I wrote that in the one book I wrote a long time ago already. If you have an illusion of life, what it should be, how you would like it, you have a discrepancy between what you think life is and what you want what life is and how it really is. And that discrepancy makes you suffer. It's called an illusion. You have an illusion of life and you cling to this illusion. And because you cling to it, you suffer. That is basically what the Buddhists always want to help you, is that let go of that stuff. You know, it's not gonna help you. Life is what it is. You cannot deny it, you know. First lesson, life is suffering. So that is a bit the part. Accept what life is also in its pure essence. And when you suffer in life, and I always tell that people is, sit down and think about it. Don't rant about it like, why is this happening to me? Blah, 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 blah. And, you know, like there will nothing good come out of that. You need to sit down and you need to ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn right now? Why am I suffering? Because when you suffer, there's always something to learn. I never had a single situation where I suffered and I had nothing to learn. Okay? So, very important, a part of acknowledging life and cultivating life is to learn to understand what life wants to teach you all the time. And it wants to teach you especially and exactly in those moments where you suffer. Okay. So as such, also be really wary of your language. And what I mean by that is, if you talk badly about everything all the time, like negativity, like, oh, this is so bad, and he doesn't deserve it, and like this toxic, down dragging, energy sucking talk some people have. It's really horrible. Be really careful of that, because these things cultivate really like the opposite. They destroy life inside of yourself. They destroy your life energy. They suck energy from you. They don't give you energy, okay? So that is also why I always say spelling is important, because in spelling is the word spell, to cast like a spell. And it's really like that. The way you express yourself makes a big difference, and the way you describe things, how they are happening, and so forth. And you can check out, I have a video about nonviolent communication, which kind of is a beautiful way just to look at life in a different way, that you can resolve conflicts much better. So spelling and how you phrase things, it's utterly important that you learn how to do these things properly, to have a really affirming way also to approach life, okay? Sometimes, I still want to warn, sometimes reality is brutal. And to acknowledge that is also good and fine. And you need to be comfortable with a certain amount of brutality in life, whether we like it or not. But that is also a part of it, to understand that. Okay. So the second one, no blasphemy, or cultivate and acknowledge life for what it is, and don't turn away from it. Really beautiful one. Now the third one is going to be also quite interesting. It seems very obvious first, which is no murder. Okay. Or to abstain from murder, or refrain. Now you could flip that around again and say, love others. Don't kill them. And there is a deep sense in that if you hurt someone, you're gonna get hurt too. One of the lessons is that I gave also in one of the previous videos. You are never separate from your environment. Your environment and you are always one. And if someone is in your environment and that person suffers, or whatever it is, it suffers, you are going to suffer. It's just how it is. You never had did you ever have like a nagging or negative or suffering person around? Like it takes so much energy. So, if you make them suffer physically, mentally, doesn't matter, you are gonna suffer, and your life will be worse, a lot worse. And you would wish it wouldn't be like that. So that is why I really encourage everyone to love others, because it's entirely in your interest to do that. And I don't say never defend yourself. We get to that in a second. But what I'm saying is that if you have a chance to nurture a love and connection to someone, you absolutely need to do this, because this is the only way that you're gonna increase and improve life in general. That you need to sometimes use violence is a tragedy. And it's okay that you sometimes need to do that. But if it becomes normal, something is utterly broken, and you need to think about things very deeply, how you can change that. Okay. You need to find then other ways. And what I also like about no murder or love others is acknowledge that the others are also the divine. They are also connected to it. You are no special. You are the same as they are, and both of you are connected to each other. That is one of what I just wanted to tell you, that there is no separation. But also acknowledge that there is no real control. You need to be comfortable that some things you cannot change. If my neighbor does something and I ask him politely and I communicate my needs to him, and he says no for whatever reason, the only way to make him kind of submit to what I want is not just inflict pain and suffering on him, which I could, but would be ultimately to kill him. So no murder is also a way of saying, okay, you need to be aware that if you try to use force, basically the ultimate thing is going to be always murder. So So don't try to make that normal. That is why he's saying no murder. And it's quite important because in the biblical story, of course, because of, especially because of violence, God wiped out humanity. So that is also a crucial piece. It's not just a one piece which is important. It's a very fundamental piece which is important of the whole puzzle. Okay? And a part of no murder or love others is also to stay empathic to them. Okay? So have an empathic connection. And I always like to say that you can hit someone in the face with empathy. What I say by that is someone is about to do something utterly stupid in your vicinity. I don't know, like trying to hurt a child, very obvious case. And you need to make sure in that moment that you take out that person before they do anything really stupid. And I say that very clearly because it is in their own interest. You do it out of love for them. Because if they would do that, and then in the end they would live their life. Imagine like a person kills the child by accident, out of rage or whatever. And then later, maybe they have children themselves. Every time that person is going to look at a child, they will feel and see that if they have empathy. And they will never, you do them a favor if you take them out before they do anything too stupid. Because the trauma which is going to be caused to the child, and themselves too, though, is going to be enormous. Okay? So that is why I always say, even out of love, sometimes you can hurt someone. But you need to be really careful with doing that. Because what happens often in conflicts, and that is an essential of this lesson, no murder, is people start hurting others. You especially see that currently in Gaza. You start hurting others or each other. And at some point, people stop to have this empathic connection to the other side. And they get dehumanized. And in that moment is where the whole thing falls apart. Because from that moment on, there is no basis of conflict resolution anymore. In any sense. And that is then the moment where basically God and the Bible wipes them all out. So yeah, a super important piece. No murder. I could go more into this. Maybe I will do a video about conflict resolution again. It's just a core piece of my life. I really focus so much on it. Now the fourth one is no illicit relations. So you could also flip it around again and say, nurture healthy and beautiful relationships to other people in any way. Just as an example, my friends, I have no clue when they have birthday. I don't care. And they don't care too. Because when they come around, no matter where we stopped in the past, we just continue exactly there. And in the moment where they come and are with me again, or I'm with them, we just have birthday, Christmas, whatever we have it all at once because we just freaking love each other. We love each other so much, we don't care that the other person doesn't know our birthday because it doesn't matter to us even anymore. Their love is so great. Why the heck we don't care about that anymore? Because for us, any moment we meet, there's gonna be enormous love towards each other. We don't even need that anymore. And it's just so nice, that is a really great relationship if you just, you go out for the food, whatever you want, how much you want, and you do some crazy fun adventures and, have good tea talks, talk about the deepest, darkest things that we witnessed and, but also about the greatest joys, like the whole spice of life unloads, it's amazing. I love that. I really love my friends for that. It's just the real deal, and that is a healthy relationship. It's a really healthy relationship. So you need to understand the basics of relationships. And I also want to focus especially on relationships between men and women, because what many forget nowadays is they go into these superficial relationships, which are like, yeah, we're together but not together. And, like these I don't commit really things nowadays. Like I see them so often in my vicinity, especially in younger people, because they just never want to commit. They're just cowards. And you need to be aware that, and I always tell that people, sexuality is for kids, making kids. That is the ultimate thing which is behind it. Biology wants two people to come together and make kids. And that can end in big tragedy if you don't do that adequately, respectfully. So no illicit relations also means be really careful if you build a relationship about it, and also be in that relationship really careful about everything, including sexual things. And I also want to phrase here, that is one of the reasons why I never did one-night stands or superficial sex with anyone. Because imagine, I have one friend, and he had some superficial fun with a woman, which definitely the values didn't align. She was very narcissistic. And oh wow, a child came up. Now he has to raise a child with a woman he's not together anymore, who's extremely narcissistic. And he's gonna have that fun for over 20 years. Yeah, enjoy it. You understand? Like, that is something you really don't want. So be really careful about these things, really focus on the essentials. Like, maybe if you sleep with a person that you would also, in that, by feeling, want something more with that person. Ultimately, maybe, build a family. That, not just maybe, build a family. Like, if that wish is behind it, that you go all in into a person, like, no illicit relations also means I'm all in it to that person. Like, in that moment, when I'm with a woman, I don't care what woman is around me anymore. I focus 195% on my woman. And if I have a problem with her, I don't start looking for other women because I might be dissatisfied. I focus even more on her and sit down with her and work out whatever we can. And if it falls apart in the end, that is fine. And then I might look for a new woman after some time. But like, I don't run away. And that is also no illicit relations, is really focus on your relationship with someone. I also want to though say, stay away from negative people is also no illicit relations. Do you know these people which are always nagging and like, my life is so terrible and that person is so unfair and this bad happened. Just recently I met a guy like this. Horrible. Like, I hate these people. They suck energy, And when you're positive and you have this divine connection and all of that, they just want to eat all your energy all the time. And I need to generate that even more because of them, because it's just dragging so much along. And if they would just shut the hell up, it would be fine. And sometimes you can give them a bit of spark that they learn, hopefully, their lesson, but definitely be really careful how much you spend around people like that. So no illicit relations also definitely comes in that. And one important thing there is also, be careful with boundaries, personal boundaries. You need to draw very clear boundaries, what is right and wrong and acceptable for you and what not. And if you're not sure, you can play with the boundaries in your mind or in physicality. Okay, but just be careful. Some boundaries you don't want to cross. And that is one of the things where I say, okay, if your partner cheats, it's over. Like, no matter how much you love them or whatever, but it's gonna be like, I could not imagine standing up in the morning, get out of bed where I was lying with my partner who cheated on me, go into the bathroom and look in the mirror and look at my own face with proudness, because I stay with a person who cheated on me and has no consequence to bear from it. Because I know then this person was not all into me and didn't really give it all and was just searching for a cheap escape. And I would definitely not be in for that. I could not value myself if I would do that, you see. So that is why personal boundaries are incredibly important, especially between men and women, because you see, women always test a bit our boundaries, and they do to check whether you're a strong and sensible and reasonable man. So they play a bit with you, and sometimes they push you also, but you are not allowed to give in beyond your own personal respectful boundaries. Never, under no circumstances. Because if you are one of those weak men then in the end, for example, and that is also under no illicit relations, if you're one of those weak men which kind of give in because they want to make the wife always happy and all of that, you lose respect from your woman. And then it's over anyway. So it's kind of like stand your ground like a real man when it comes to reasonable things, especially, you know, when a woman wants very tight contact to another guy or whatever, and say, no, this is not fine for me. I don't feel comfortable with it. This is not okay. You know, have some respect, please. So, like, just overstating the case a bit. But yeah, just that you know, you need to establish boundaries. That is also, healthy relationships are based on that. And narcissists abuse it because they go so deep inside of your personal boundaries. They basically demand that you don't have any. One narcissist, like in my life, my childhood, she went through my paperwork, for example, on my desk all the time to check what was going on in my life. Crazy shit. Definitely don't want that. That's not okay. Even though there's nothing to hide. Doesn't matter. It's your personal space. Okay? All right. So, I already said a lot. Also, a good thing is regarding sexuality. Sexuality is, for me, always the deep revelation. Like, if I have a great connection with someone, my partner, and I built that up through hard work with my partner, sexuality on top for me is the true, it's unmatchable. Like, if I deeply connected and loving the other person from a divine and deep point of view, and then sexually on top, it's incredible. And I always say, everything else is a tragedy and sadness to me. And that is why I also told that a woman recently, which was about like, yeah, you know, you can just have sex for fun and that. And I said, like, I can't. Like, for me, there's a sadness. Like, it's just, if I can't connect to a woman really, like, what is this, you know? So no illicit relations also means have the ability to restrain yourself when it would arise. You need to be aware that something will damage or hurt you. And one thing I also want to say there is, I talked with a lot of women about sexuality, and I mean men too, but women are always also quite interesting because obviously I'm not a woman, so the other side is always a bit more curious. And one thing I learned is, if you have too much sexual intercourse with random partners, a lot of them, what will happen is you always get a part of their energy. It's just how it works. It's such a deep uniting thing, having sex, that you get a piece of them and the other way around, and especially women on the receiving end, obviously. So one important thing that you need to learn from that is that if you have too much of that, and a lot of women told me that, and I mean, I figured it out over time, but it's quite obvious that they lose a sense of self, stability, own values, whatever it is, but it gets all muddy and they get totally lost. And I met one very interesting, one woman, which was a sexual educator for schools, and she kind of came out of a more lax environment, probably like, I forgot to ask, or I forgot, but probably like, I don't know, hippie environment from parents. Like, very easy about sex and all of that. But she had, like, her biggest problem was she had no sense of self so much anymore. Like, she was super fluid in herself and all of that. And it was really negative for her. It was varying on her because she had, like, no self-esteem and like, yeah, you can just have, you know, this and that. And like, there was no value built up or something. And she struggled with herself very strongly and was trying to get back to it, because also her emotions and all of that became very unstable with it. Quite interesting. Also, the last piece about no illicit relations is try to cultivate a really healthy home. And I say that especially in the sense of kids. If you have kids, try to cultivate a good relationship because it will benefit your kids greatly. And I like that the Jews there have the principle of Shalom Bayit, which is a peaceful home. And that is really what kids need. And you are responsible for making that. And how you transact the relationship with your partner or with people around in the family is gonna deeply determine Shalom Bayit. So yeah, definitely recommend this one. There's a bigger one now, that this was. There are no illicit relations, but I think it's such a crucial one. Now, the fifth one is no stealing. I mean, quite obvious, no stealing. But what is the inverse is perform giving. Not just take illegally, give voluntarily. And then people are like, what? Why? Because you see, giving is it's a sign of love. If you give someone and you don't ask for a return because you just love them so much in that moment, that is love. That is true love. It's not love if someone comes to you and says, I give you this much, but therefore, then you know it's not out of love. It's a transaction, which might also be fine in business or whatever. But if you, by the way, toxic people like narcissists, they always do transactions. You will recognize that they always have a scheme and they always will be like, I give you this, but therefore, you know, I heard it with narcissistic people all the time. They never give you for free. It's not how they work. They always want to make sure they keep control, you know, with their strings, and that one of the strings is giving. So yeah, giving is a sign of love, and it must be unconditional if you do it out of love. That is very important. Don't expect anything in return, but you will get in return, because if you build love one way, it's gonna come back. So one principle of the universe is some people want more, but they don't want to give. That is not how the universe works. You need to give in order to receive. Do you get it? You just need to give out to everyone around you and love them and care about them. And stuff will come back to you all the time from random people sometimes even. And it's gonna be, this is how it works. Okay, so giving is receiving. It's the same thing. It's the same coin, just on the opposite side. And you need to do it in that sense. Okay. But also, no stealing means be grateful for what you have. Like their life, I'm always grateful for what I have. I could be living under the bridge and I would still be better off than probably some people if they live now in my home here. Just because I'm grateful for what I have. I know what I had and I'm just so thankful for my life. And if you want more, you need to work hard. Okay? And working hard is not enough. What you need to do is, and we're back to giving, is you need to offer something which brings value for other people. If you can give them some kind of value, you do something for them, you kind of give them something, they reward you voluntarily and happily with the money. Do you get it? So giving, the basic sense of earning money is also giving. It's not receiving, more or less. It's both at the same time, but you need to get it. Like, you can't just expect to receive but not to give or anything like that. It doesn't work like that. And also, no stealing means like relax a bit about money or material things. Let go when it sometimes is time to let things go. You know, don't be too obsessed with something. You know, just be a bit more easier about it. And one crucial part where no stealing or stealing comes from is, of course, that we are unhappy. We're unhappy that we don't have something we believe we deserve. And that is a really dangerous thought, because you basically create the illusion that you would deserve something which you don't have. Because if you would deserve it, you would have it anyway. Do you get it? So in a way, you don't deserve it if you don't have it, in that sense. So it's a very toxic and unhealthy thought to make this judgment like that person doesn't deserve this. Like you get it. You play that game again. You build an illusion of life up by that because you're the real judge. Like God doesn't know how it works. Like life doesn't know. Like I'm better. You know, it doesn't work like that. You know, don't try to you deserve more than what you have. If you want more, you got to work for it and it's going to be fine. And don't think about what you deserve or not. It's a trap. It's always a trap. Okay. And no stealing. It also has, I read in a book recently, and it was very beautifully put, different stages about materialism. And the first one is indulgence. Usually we indulge ourselves, sometimes get lost in things. Okay. Material things. Then afterwards comes the avoidance. The phase where we minimize then and try to cut it entirely out and never do it again, and you know, be very very the opposite of it. Like after the yin and comes the yang, right? Then afterwards comes the third stage, and most people believe that's the final, but it's not, which is the freedom from it. That you are kind of like, you made you're at peace with it, you abstain from it more or less, but it's kind of like you are free from it in its entirety. Okay, it's hard to put it better than that for me. I don't know how to describe the feeling really, but yeah, indulgence, avoidance, and in the end, freedom, because you had both sides. But then I like this in this book because they really get it. Is there is a fourth stage, which is wholly embracing, that you see good in both sides, you understand both sides of the coin, and you can embrace them both in their own way and don't renounce them anymore, and integrate and accept them in as a divine piece of life. And I love that. I really love that, because most people, they get lost in this, but this freedom from stage, in this third stage, and believe that is the true thing. But the holy re-embracing is really the fourth stage, is the ultimate one, which you should cultivate. Okay? So yeah, no stealing, perform giving. Good one. Then, this is going to be a shorter one, but I really love this one too. It's no eating torn flesh of a live animal. And first of all, it's quite obvious that you should care for other beings and life. That is more or less the core essence. Respect all forms of life, not just your or the humans or whatever. You know, minimize pain if you can. You need to understand, and I told that before, life is set up in a bit like a trap. For example, we need to consume life forms to sustain ourselves as humans, plants or animals, doesn't matter. It's not about just what we eat, but how we do it. How respectful can we do it? That is a bit the sense behind things like eating kosher, or other things like veganism or whatever. Like, as long as you try to bring a bit this divine spirit of, I try to really respect life in a way when doing things. So it's not precisely about what you do, but how you do it. That is most important in life often. It's not just the decisions, but how they are carried out with divine grace, and trying to minimize pain, and giving it some sense, a bit of elegance and respect and dignity. So, you know, like when the Indians hunted bisons, that they killed the animal, but then did it in a sense of, please don't haunt us, or your spirit should not haunt us. We don't want to generally kill, you know, it's just how this thing works, and we respect you for what you did, that you died, and we can sustain ourselves. So thank you, you know. This sense of, okay, we had to do it, but we respect, like, this is just how it is. Sorry. You know, I really love that one. And also, no eating torn flesh of a live animal, or care for animals. I think it goes beyond and says more, be sensitive. Connect to all life around you. Like, some people, they discuss, like, is a dog really self-aware? When I look at my dog, like, she has it all. Like, sometimes she's happy, she's sad. The most important thing for her in her life is me, and that I give her love and care and kisses. And you get it. Like, she has the whole menu I have on my table. So, you know, if you observe and connect to the animals and plants and whatever it is, you understand that things are very similar, just in a very different way. Okay? And you should connect to everything and respect it. Always respect it. All right. The last one is establish a system of justice. And that is such a crucial piece, because nowadays, especially with this woke and leftism where everything is relative, you can always muddy the waters and everything is just relative, and it doesn't matter anymore what's a man or a woman, and that these things. And I love established system of justice because it tries to pull back on that, on all of this relativism. It says there must be a system of justice present which really tries, based on values, to make sure that justice is carried out. what I say by that is the question is what values comes then, of course, from most people, like what values should we use? Like there this values and that and whatever. And the easiest values come from the divine. I said that before, that the sense of God gives you a sense of values, what is right and what is wrong. And I mean, I could go over the previous ones, but like no illicit relations. Like what is an illicit relation? Which has something negatively affecting you. So if you have a relationship with someone and you feel really terrible about it all the time, maybe you should think about whether there's something wrong there, And so you see, out of the sense of divinity and God and all of that comes the sense of, exactly when you did something you should not have done. When you suffer afterwards, if you hurt someone and you really, or you were traumatized by an experience and, this, no one should have to go through that. I don't want that my kids should ever go through that. Okay? So do you get it? From that point on, or from that, comes a sense of values, and justice comes out of that too. And it is fundamental, and it exists. It's not all relative. Like people who always think everything is relative, they are lost. They don't have a sense of divinity or godly connection or whatever. They have not cultivated virtue inside of themselves. Virtues are also a core essential piece of that. And one core piece of justice is also you got to guide others to act fairly too. And I don't say that you should control them or whatever, but that you should show them that if they act in certain ways, that they are gonna have a better life, a much better life, okay? And that it can really benefit them. And that is what religions try. And I don't like to use the word religions, because religions for me are not religions. But that is what any teaching which instills a sense of divine connection tries to teach you, that there are ways, if you act in a certain way, you're gonna have a much better life. A just life. Just. Okay? But also be ready to fight for your values and for the divine values. You can't just let anyone trample them. You need to make sure that they are kept with integrity. And in a sense, sometimes it seems that you might have to abandon your values to keep them. In a sense of, sometimes you have to take someone who's about to kill someone else out. And as I told you before, no murder should be carried out. But you need to be ready to kind of go on the opposite side to defend the values, because if it all falls apart and you let it fall apart, there is nothing anyway anymore to protect. And then you have chaos anyway. Okay? So it is up to you in duty to stand up and fight for it. And that is super, super, super important, because there are people lost, like narcissists. They are lost in trauma and whatever, in their thoughts, in their fear, whatever it is. And they hurt others because of that. And I don't say that they are bad people per se. They are just like you and me, just that we're built like that. But you can't let them run around and hurt other people and let that pain and suffering and disruption go through more people, and by that traumatize them, because that is not what the divine wants us to do. It wants us to create a better world, a more peaceful, loving, caring, and all of that. And for that reason, we need to keep these people in check. And I have witnessed, like I said, I one boss. She was horrible. She was extremely narcissistic, if not sociopath already. She was really crazy one. You need to keep these people in check, because she was just tearing not just the organization apart when I was there. Like, it took almost a year when she got in power that she tore the thing apart, because no one stood up to her. But also everyone suffered in their vicinity, and no one wanted to do anything because everyone was weak and allowed that to happen. Okay? And you need to give them a sense of force when they are around you, that they stay in line. Because they don't succumb to love, they succumb only to fear. Because that is how they were taught when they were small, unfortunately. But it's important that you keep this system of justice in place to do exactly that. Sometimes you need to go to the other side. You don't want to go to make sure that the kids behind you have a peaceful life. It's just like that. That is the role of the parent. Okay. All right. Those were all rules given from God to Noah. No idolatry, no blasphemy, no murder, no illicit relations, no stealing, no eating torn flesh of a live animal, and establishing a system of justice. I hope you enjoyed the episode and the insights in those holy scriptures, and see you next time again. Please also don't forget, if you like the episode, to subscribe and like the video and share. I would really appreciate it, and see you soon.